All right, guys, in this video, we're gonna demo how to use the application Adobe Illustrator to create your Polaroid landscape. Now, what we had done before in the previous weeks, we had opened up this file, which was given to you, and then we changed the name at the bottom from John Smith to your full name. And then we went to the file itself. We saved it as, and you just changed my first name and last initial to your first name and last initial. So let's begin. We also went into our layers palette right here, and we locked the window and the background layer, which we created. Now, we also created another layer called the pen tool, and we were experimenting there. So that we're all on the same page, let's go up to the top where it says window, workspace, and essentials classic. Now, if that's already clicked, you're going over here to reset essentials classic. What that's gonna do is make us all be able to see things in the same way. So what I'm gonna do for my Polaroid landscape, I'm looking for a landscape that is simple, something that is gonna have a foreground, middle ground, and background, and something where I'm not gonna have to struggle to figure out what is it that I'm gonna keep and take away. So for me, I'm gonna go to my layers palette. I'm gonna change the pen tool layer. In fact, I'm gonna select everything in the pen tool layer by clicking right here, this little dot next to it. And I'm gonna hit delete just in case there's anything in there. And then I'm gonna change this to be photo. This is where I'm gonna put the photo of my landscape. All right, so I'm gonna go up to the top where it says file and then place. And again, this is next to Illustrator, so file, place. And I'm gonna look for my image, which I know is right over here in my downloads folder. I downloaded it from Pinterest. You could download it from really Google Images or anything like that, but Pinterest will probably be best. So I'm clicking and dragging around to see where I want it. I could also pull the corners. Let me zoom out, Command negative. I'm gonna pull the corners. Now, this is with the selection tool, not the rect selection tool. I'm gonna hold Shift and pull. If I don't hold Shift, look at what happens. It distorts my image, but if I hold Shift, I can do this. There you go, maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe let me see, I like the water at the bottom, but not too much. Yeah, maybe right over here. All right, and then when I'm done with that, I'm gonna lock this layer. Why? Because I do not want my photo moving around, especially once I'm illustrating on top of it. Now, the next few things, I'm gonna create 3 layers. 1, 2, 3, and this is in the layers palette down at the bottom. All right, the first one, I'm gonna call foreground. Now, let's see, foreground, middle ground, and then background. Let me just capitalize the F on foreground. There you go. And this is where I'm gonna be putting my illustrations. Now, to create this, I definitely wanna go into the pen tool, and in some cases, depending on what you're doing, you might use the shapes right here, right? Like if you have a sunset, right? Click, oops, wrong one. If you have a sunset, the ellipse tool, click and drag holding Shift, right? Instead of creating a perfect circle with the pen tool. But I'm gonna start off with my pen tool for this one, and I'm gonna outline those marshes down at the bottom. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Why? Because most likely people aren't gonna say, hey, that's that picture from Pinterest, right? They're just gonna look at it and say, hey, that looks cool. That looks like a nice image that you created, an illustration of what seems to be a meadow or a marsh. All right, I'm gonna move over here and notice anything outside of the photo area where you see that window right there, it's not gonna see. So if I do this to make a closed shape, that's okay. No one's gonna see that part. There it is, that's one of my first shapes. Now you might have something that looks like this, or maybe even this, or this, right? If you notice at the bottom of the toolbar, you have your fill color and your stroke color. What you want is for your fill color to be none and for your stroke color to be something crazy. Why? because you want it to stand out. In fact, you want it to be a color that doesn't exist in your photo. So I'm picking this pink type color. If you wanted to, you could make the stroke a little bit thicker. I wouldn't make it thicker than 2. In fact, I'll probably stick to 1 or 0.5 points. All right? And you're going to be doing this to each one of your objects, at least in the foreground, and then you're moving on to the middle ground, which would be more up here, right? This tree line right here. And then your background would be the clouds and more of these tree lines on the back. All right? So have fun. Go through with that. Don't forget using the pen tool. Oh, actually, I forgot to show you that. If you want to navigate around your page, I had mentioned before, Command 0, Command negative, and Command plus, right? Command 0 fits it to the page. Command negative zooms out. Command plus zooms in, right? The other thing is, if you hold spacebar, you see you get that little hand right there? Let me show you my cursor. See the little hand? I can move my piece around without actually moving anything in my piece. So those are ways to actually navigate through your piece. I'm going to show you a few things right here with the pen tool. I know you guys know this from using the pen tool game. You click and drag, click and drag. Now there might be some areas I'll show you right over here. Click and drag, like right over here. Maybe you want to change the positioning. Click, drag, okay. But I want this to go in a different direction. So if you hold Option, you can move the handle of this one a little bit different because it is going in a different direction. Again, over here, hold Option, click. Now that's changing the direction of the handle, which is changing the direction of the line, right? Again, hold Spacebar, come right over here, right over here. And then here. All right. Take your time. Don't worry if something doesn't come out exactly how you want it. This is very different than the pen tool game where you could actually go back with the direct selection tool and move things around. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to worry about it being perfect. You could always go back and edit it. So you have the selection tool, the direct selection tool, right? Selection tool, direct selection tool. You have the pen tool. And within the pen tool, you can add or delete anchor points, and the anchor point tool, as we saw in the vocabulary quiz, you can click and drag that, or click and drag that. All right, have fun.